The development of Halo Infinite was a tragedy and could have been prevented. But to understand how it started, we have to take ourselves back to 2015. Halo 5 had just came out and was very controversial for good reason. 343 was looking for something fresh. So they began developing the Slipspace engine. The development of the Slipspace engine for Halo Infinite is estimated to have cost around $500 million, which is insane considering that they are now moving on to Unreal Engine 5 for their new game. During E3 2018, they released a trailer showing off their return to a more classic art style, and the people were all very happy. Later in 2020, during the COVID era, which is still not an excuse of how Halo Infinite ended up turning out, we finally had a gameplay trailer, and it was not good. The game looked pretty bad, and a couple of months later, the new generation of Xbox consoles was going to be released. Halo has always been one of the most popular games to play when you purchase your new console. Then, it was announced that the game was going to be delayed, and this was a good decision, and most Halo fans understood why this was made. Over a year later, the open beta of Halo's multiplayer came out and had pretty positive reviews from fans and critics alike, especially since it was just a beta. The campaign was released on December 8th, 2021, so you would think that the game would know it'd be a little different. We have some game fixes. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Quickly, people realized the lack of content and even a lack of a Slayer playlist, the most simple game mode in Halo's history, along with many other bugs. There was a point in the game's history where the battle rifle, one of the most iconic guns in Halo, would just randomly jam and stop firing. They broke shooting in a first-person shooter for like 20 days. And we can't even get started on the server desync that people were experiencing. During esports championships, these big strong men would randomly get disconnected. Oh, and the store prices? I guess this game was monetized for people who lived alone and make like $50 an hour, because at launch, the prices were abysmal. Many of these problems were because the actual developers barely developed the Slipspace engine. Microsoft hired contractors because Bill Gates wanted to save some money. This had the same effect as if you were to use ChatGPT your whole freshman year for your Algebra 1 class and you end up getting a 25 on the final. Alright, so they cheaped out, hired contractors to develop the Slipspace engine, and this was the biggest mistake in Halo Infinite's developmental process, because the actual developers had an extremely hard time just changing simple things in the menu. This quickly became apparent a few months after release. Halo Infinite had started dropping players extremely fast. Season 1 of Halo Infinite lasted 5.5 months, which is very long for a live service game. Season 2 started May 3rd, 2022 and concluded November 8th of 2022, which again, super long season. During these extremely long seasons, they had small 10-level events that were honestly kind of boring, really boring, and I had only played them so I could collect the free armor or weapon coding because I could never afford anything in the store. Halo Infinite was dropping players quick, and the layoffs were only making things worse. A little bit more specific on the developmental issues of Halo Infinite. So let's start with number 1. Campaign development issues. The campaign team was reportedly isolated from studio collaboration, which drained their morale and hindered the development process, causing more delays. Lack of external focus testing. The campaign did not undergo external focus testing, unlike previous Halo campaigns, which led to extreme frustration within their team. Bad feedback loops. Leadership did not actively solicit feedback from the campaign team until months before the game's release. And internal testing days were cancelled, effectively cutting off all feedback loops. The abrupt scrapping of hackathons was also just a really bad decision. Hackathons were organized to boost morale and help generate ideas for the campaign, but leadership abruptly scrapped them and the successful prototypes that they had produced. Two, internal testing and feedback. Lack of leadership involvement. Leadership didn't actively play the campaign during internal testing days and later canceled internal testing, further isolating the already isolated campaign team. There was zero feedback on the campaign until months before the game's release. 3. Development engine and process. Slipspace engine issues. The Slipspace engine caused numerous problems for developers, including bugs and difficulty, leading to delays in features like extraction modes. And then another thing that I have previously briefly mentioned was contractor dependency. Microsoft's restrictions on contractors' 18-month limit led to a constant churn of employees, impacting project continuity and the knowledge transfer between employees. 4. Terrible leadership and morale. Constant criticism of developers. Developers reported being constantly criticized by leadership as leadership took away the things that they made, such as the abrupt scrapping of prototypes and hackathons, which I have already mentioned. 5. Impact on development and project. Redundant work on unoptimized pipelines. Lack of focused management and unchecked ambition led to redundant work, unoptimized pipelines, and a bottleneck development. Cutting features to meet the deadline. When crunch hit, features were cut to make the deadline, leading to an incomplete product, which led to the issues on launch that I mentioned earlier in the video. This leads us to modern day. Where does Halo Infinite sit now? Well, a year after release, they added Forge mode and began using Forge maps in their updates because they couldn't make enough maps. The shop prices have came down slightly, and are still a big issue, but it's never gonna get fixed. They also added a progression system, and a few weeks back, they released the first ever new gun since the game came out. They have also tweaked the way that battle passes work and added a few extra game modes. This is all very, very nice, but the problem with all this is that every single one of these items should have been there at launch. I am a diehard Halo fan, so of course I will keep going back to the game, but for over 93% of the game's initial population, this is not enough, and there is no coming back. All we can do is pray that the leadership at 343 and Xbox has learned from their mistakes and are ready to make future changes in Halo 7. Unfortunately, Halo 7 already could be having some troubles in development, as it has been 4 years since we have heard of a new Halo game that could be in development. Who is to blame for all this? In case it wasn't clear in the video, if you want to blame anybody, blame the management. And this also brings me back to the start of the video. How could this have all been prevented? Proper management. Proper management could have saved this game. But that's all I really gotta say. That's my little video. I hope this was alright.